Marie, when life feels too much, what's happening in the body when we're stressed out?
Yeah, for me, I always thought stress was in your actual head. It's how you're feeling in your mind. But the realization was actually it's what's happening in your physiology. It's your body. So for me, that's like the lack of sleep. It's the irritability. And these were things that I hadn't realized. And then once I started to realize that if you can actually regulate those, then everything else changes. So that's getting out in nature, that's the breathing, that's the movement, and that helps you sort of regulate all those elements within your body, and that brings that steadiness. And that for me was sort of the game changer.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. So, Marie, your name's Marie McLaughlin.
Yep.
You're from Dumfries,
Dumfries, yeah.
Donegal, Ireland. You're a learning and development consultant, author, and founder of Perry Mayhem, born and raised on a farm.
Yep.
Your farming upbringing has helped shape your resilience, work ethic, and connection to nature. Over the past 22 years, you've had a career in corporate finance in Ireland and the UK, mostly dedicated to the learning and development of helping others perform under pressure. After years of observing stress, biology, and performance while also experiencing perimenopause, you're about to release your own book based around your understanding of physiology, how returning to nature can help, and embracing a lifestyle with medication that can transform. Your work sits at the intersection of biology, well being, and resilience, informed by a career spent helping people navigate complexity with clarity and confidence. How
Yes.
does that sound? Is
That
that about
sounds
right?
good. Yeah, that sounds good. Would you hear it all together? Yeah, there's a lot.
Good, good, good. Well, look, I know life changed for you in a moment when you were 20 with your
Yes.
brother.
Yes.
Yeah, can you tell me?
Yeah, so it was an absolute change that was so sudden. So my brother died when he was 17, for 7 weeks before, and he was diagnosed with a neurological condition, and he was treated in Beaumont Hospital in Dublin. So life went from being, we lived a perfect family life to actually everything was turned on its head. And within 7 weeks, our whole world was never the same again. And that was a lot. As a 20-year-old, that was a lot to process. I was at college at the time. I was doing an Erasmus year in Germany when all of this happened, and it changes you. But it changes you. I think you've got the whole grief to deal with, but it also gave me a huge appreciation for life and how simple life can actually be, because it can change at a moment. And so I think after that, I always wanted to do the best I possibly could in life to enjoy everything that's there for us, in nature, to actually get out there, get outdoors. Just even going for walks helped me sort of process what was happening in my brother, with my brother's death. And it really brought me back to doing the simple things and the steadiness of actually doing one thing at a time, getting out of bed the next day and just carrying on. So yeah, it was a huge upheaval, but I've learned a lot from it.
Yeah, how many's in your family?
I'm one of six
Okay,
kids,
so
so
there's
yeah, so
large
there's three
family.
boys, three girls in
Yes.
our house. Yeah,
And what was that like for you in the sense of, okay, a big change,
yeah.
but grounding yourself or dealing with it and your perspective after?
Yeah, and I think I'm lucky with the family. We're talkers, so we're very good at sharing how we're feeling. Especially my two older sisters. We would sit down and we would talk through, how you were feeling with the grief, and a lot of it's in your body. You're struggling to sleep, so. It's trying to figure out what's actually happening. How do you get through this time? We had a lot of support around us. We're very lucky, in terms of our community, there was a huge amount of support there. So for me, it was how do you navigate through this? How do you get on with life?
Mm. What like so going through that, that's obviously a very traumatic experience. What's happening at the core of our body when we're experiencing stress like that?
So I think for me, that stress was coming out in lots of ways. Yes, I felt angry. I felt angry that I lost my brother, who was this young, healthy man, just starting to get into the prime of his life. So you've all of those elements. You have it changes inside your body. So even my sleep patterns changed. I was more irritable. with a lot of even simple things. But I think that's just the grief coming through. And once I realised that actually getting out in nature helped me sort of regulate that, I think that was such a big game changer then for me.
Yeah, because I think sometimes when people lose someone, that can obviously losing someone that's extremely hard, but it can have a detrimental effect on their well being in life too.
Yes.
You know, so like there is, I suppose there's ways of people, people cope in different ways. But why do you feel like nature is maybe the best or one of the ways? Like, what is the effect that it can have?
And I think for me, growing up on a farm, nature was always, we were surrounded in nature, so we would be constantly out through the hills. That was part of it, going checking for the sheep and stuff like that. So I think it's where I feel most at home. I feel nature is the stillness, it balances you. There's no agenda. So like if I can walk out my back door and go for a walk, into the hills for hours on end. And for me, that there's no, you're not competing with yourself. You're just out there and you're processing your thoughts. And once you get out and you start, doing a hike or doing a walk, whatever it is, your breath starts to regulate. And in turn, then your thoughts start to regulate. And I think it just brings you a calmness and a stillness underneath.
But why do you think it has that effect?
I think it's healing, and I think we just have to leave ourselves open to that level of healing, and to actually find that sometimes it's not a big thing that you need to help you heal your body. It's the simple things.
Like it's definitely something for me. It definitely helps regulate me if I have a tough day. Sometimes I laugh. Sometimes people think, "Oh, you've life all figured out." You know what I mean? I'm like, no, you don't see my day-to-day life. I have my
Yes.
challenges too, and nature's always been one of the things that's grounded me. It's just going for a walk, just
Yes.
put the phone down, way out, and I don't know. It just feels right, But
Yes.
it's even the birds singing.
Yes.
It could be just stopping by the river to watch the water flow down. Do you know what I mean? But you just kind of forget about everything. But I think maybe there's something just even deeper than that too, that maybe we don't understand subconsciously.
Yeah.
Like being part of nature.
And I do think it's even links back to that. It's that sort of vibrational energy, isn't it? We are vibrational beings inside, and I think it's soothing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people walk with their headphones in. I don't. I love, like what you said, the sounds of the birds and the animals around you. And even I love being in trees. I find trees are really soothing. And I don't know what it is, but walking around them, it automatically calms me every time I'm near trees at all.
Yeah, same as. I'm like, if I see a good tree, I'm like, well, that's some tree there, you know what I mean?
I know, that's
But
that appreciation.
But the way I look at the trees too is like they've been here for, forever.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? For millions of years or billions, whatever. I don't know how long. But there's like a wisdom, like as a living species, trees have figured out how to survive forever.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Through all the different catastrophes that have happened here on Earth. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So when I look at that, I'm like, I'm walking amongst wisdom.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes, and that's really grounding, isn't it? You can feel that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And they've their agenda is they're here to process carbon dioxide and oxygen. It's like, wow, that's their purpose to be here, to provide shelter. And it is, I find that really grounding.
What else do you feel whenever, say, you go out for a walk? Like, what is it that you experience or you notice or be present with?
I love, especially if I'm walking anywhere near where I live in Dumfries. So we're very blessed. There's lots of hills in the area. And I always feel close to my dad and I feel close to my John. So both of them have passed away. And I don't know what it is, but I almost feel like they're there with you. You get that real sense of, I think I'm happiest, and my memories of them are happiest when I'm out in nature. I find it very soothing. But I love looking at just the little animals that you'd see. Like sometimes there's little rivers alongside us, and you might see like a little mink going past, which is completely out of the blue, and it surprises you. But it's beautiful that you're actually there. Nobody else sees it because it's just you there at the time, and I find that really profound.
What about the physiology then? Because you've done work on that, like understanding how the body changes through breath, through regulation. Can you give me a wee insight into that?
Yeah, so in the recent years I've done a lot of breath work, and I found it's amazing how simple our breathing actually changes us in our body. So I find it's a huge regulator. It's very much it calms your whole nervous system. So if you're feeling in any way stressed, even like if you can't get outdoors, even just sitting for 10 minutes and regulating your own breath, and it's just taking slow inhales and just even counting in your own head, 4, 5, 6 seconds, and then letting it back out. It's actually profound. I've done a lot of deeper breath work as well, like the conscious connected breath work, and that's real releasing breath work. So that's a rapid mouth open type of breathing. And that's amazing how much can actually shift that's blocked maybe inside your own body. And I found that really, really profound. Over the last sort of 2 to 3 years, I feel like I'm a better person from having gone through so many different conscious connected breathwork sessions. It's really helped me even process a lot of the grief that I might have been still carrying years later. You think you've dealt with things, but sometimes it can catch you unawares. But that's really helped me shift and move any sort of trapped energy that was in my body.
Yeah. Breathing, it's I think sometimes, well, I mean, again, speaking for myself, I didn't realize I didn't breathe right for a long time. I don't know about you, but it's something I've been working on for the last probably, 2 or 3 years. But a lot of time we're short breath, we're breathing through our chest.
Yes.
And that's when we're probably unknowingly stressed or breathing from I don't know how to describe it, but it's like now I try to consciously breathe through the belly.
Yes.
So like belly breaths.
Yes. And even just a few minutes of belly breaths, it can completely sort of calm you down. And, it's not something that you have to do huge all the time, but it's actually going back to the breath. And even throughout the day, I remember somebody saying to me, even if you're just turning your kettle on to boil, practice your belly breathing for just that few seconds, and it does bring a difference throughout your day. And then there's a whole piece around, are you an open mouth breather or are you breathing through your nose? And the research is showing that actually breathing through your nose is much better for us than being open mouth breathers. So yeah, it's and once you hear that, you start to become conscious of it. And there's times that you will naturally slip back into being open mouth breather if that's your natural style. But you'll be aware of it. So yeah, it's really interesting. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to think consciously now. But I definitely I found that the more that I've been conscious breathing through the belly, that's actually changed the voice too.
Yes.
So I think what happens is the lungs open up.
Yes.
And the vocal cords, because you're working on a deeper level.
And even your diaphragm and everything changes. With it.
Yeah. And then I've started singing as well.
Oh, excellent.
I sing it myself. You know what I mean? But I think that's maybe contributed to helping to, I'm going to say, sing better than I previously sang. You know what I mean?
Excellent.
No, I'm not saying I'm a singer by any means, but
I love it.
I enjoy singing in my own time.
But I think anything that brings you joy in life is a good thing. So yes, absolutely. Yes. And if you can link it into your breath as well, even better. Yeah.
So farm life. Tell me what it was like growing up on the farm.
We had a lovely childhood, I have to say. So it's a small farm. It's not like a big, huge farm or anything like that. We grew up with sheep and cattle, and we always had dogs, cats, all of that type of thing running around. So yeah, it was a busy household, 6 kids, you can imagine yourself. But it was lovely. There was a real sense of community within the farming in our area. So like my dad would have worked very closely with some of the local farmers. We would have had like the turf was done every summer. So we would have maybe helped out with some of the other farmers and they would come and support us. And it was lovely, even things like picking potatoes. We would have made jam out of like blackberries or anything that we could find growing, the rhubarb, whatever it was. And we loved just the whole fun process of actually coming in and helping mum make an actual something that we could eat from something that we had growing on the farm. So yeah, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of like pet lambs, which really helped us develop our own emotions emotions because they might not have necessarily always lived. So, but I think it was a lovely childhood. Don't get me wrong, we had 6 kids. There was always the squabbles and always the, fighting for, who's the best at this or that. But we got on, and we had a lot of fun. We were always outdoors. We were always playing, even in the winter time. It's sleighing down the fields with the local neighbours, and to this day, my own daughters still do that, and I love that. I think it's such a sense of community, of out there. There's no agenda. You're just having great fun. So yeah, it's a great childhood.
Yeah, like my granny and granda, so they had a farm, so I remember going there as a kid, and there's just something about it. It just felt so freeing. You could just go and explore the fields for the whole day.
Absolutely.
You wouldn't be seen.
You wouldn't be seen. Like in the summer times, like we had a river ran past our house, and there was like this little tiny island on it. It was probably like 20 feet by 10, and we could entertain ourselves for a whole summer. We'd be leaving the house in the morning after breakfast. Mum would literally whistle to tell us that lunch was ready, and we would come back up and go in for lunch or dinner. And we would spend our whole time building houses, pretend we had little families and shops and everything on it. But it's great, and choosing your own imagination. And yeah, it was so much fun. When you think back, there was no health and safety whatsoever. No. But do you know what? We all survived, and we all managed to figure it out ourselves. So it was good fun.
I think a lot of us, I mean, probably all of us, if we had the opportunity as kids, there was that adventure spirit to go and explore. Even if you're from a town, I think there's always that, like, will we go out a little further than what we've ever been, and that sense of adventure.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and I think now, like, when I got older, then you kind of go away from that, but then you kind of come back to it now.
Yeah.
For me now, not realising it,
Yeah, absolutely. You appreciate it, don't you?
Definitely.
Yeah.
But you went into corporate finance, so...
Yeah. I did a degree in business up in Letterkenny at ATU. It is now. It was LYAT when I was there. But yeah, so it was kind of one of those degrees that was very open, and you come out the other side and you're thinking, okay, what will I actually do with my life? And I ended up working in banking. So I started off sort of like in sales of bank accounts, credit cards, loans, and then I moved into mortgages and insurance. And I enjoyed sales, but I knew this wasn't what I wanted to do. But I was kind of I was open to something different, but I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do. And an opportunity came up in learning and development. And it was an area that I didn't really know anything about. So I thought, yeah, I'll give it a go. I'll try it. And I was put through 3 weeks of training for it, so it kind of helped set me up. But once I stepped into the world of learning and development, I just went, right, this is what I love. This is the life I want. I want to be able to help people. And, some of my initial courses were very much focused on mortgages and insurance. So you're with a group for maybe 7 weeks at a time. So you got to see them develop, and you got to see them actually get to the point where, you're actually able to do the sales then themselves. So, I found it really rewarding. The banking world opened lots of opportunities for me, so I could move in a lot of different directions. I stayed within the learning and development arena. I moved into writing the curriculum for training courses, and then I moved into sort of managing departments of people within those areas, mostly in contact centres. It's been an interesting sort of ride in terms of the whole career, but I've enjoyed it.
What did you figure out when you started working, learning in the learning and development department? What were you seeing within people?
I just seen the people's potential.
Okay.
And I think the big thing in people is actually building their confidence.
So a lot of people not so confident?
Not so confident. And it's one of those, yes, a lot of people suffer from self-doubt. I've suffered from that myself over the years. But I think it's actually giving people the ability to say, yes, I actually can do this. It's letting them know that any job, doesn't matter what it is, if you start off and put your heart into it, you will actually get there. I think people are capable of pretty much anything they put their hearts to. And for me, it was watching people start off, and it was very daunting. A lot of these courses that they were taking on, these were big jobs, and even we did a lot of developing people into management roles and senior management roles, and it's actually building that confidence. It's a different type of skill that you need when you're moving from doing the sales role to actually becoming a manager. It's a completely different skill set, and a lot of times people are promoted because they're the best at sales, but that actually doesn't make them the best person at managing other people. So it's actually showing them, how to have empathy with your team, how to build your skill set, how to be the coach, how to be the person that can do all the paperwork. So there's a lot of hats that managers have to wear, and it was developing that side as well. So I've worked with people who came in at sort of the grassroots level and ended up sort of senior business managers over the years, and that's really rewarding.
How do you how do you figure that out in people? Because, you can probably see someone's potential, but then coaching them into it, you know, or
Yeah.
was there a proven method?
You can tell by the person themselves. You will see the people who want to excel. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with people who don't want to excel, because there's a lot of people who are very happy in the role that they're doing. So it's trying to figure out, is this person who wants to move on, or is this a person who actually just wants to get better and better in their own role? And it's two different levels of support. So if it's somebody in their own role, it's how you can actually improve them even further. And a lot of times it's small tweaks. Whereas the people who want to progress and move into different roles, then that's actually helping build a wider skill set for them and opening up more potential. And they're the people that you would actually ask, there's certain projects available. Would you be interested in working on these? And that sort of opened up sort of their ability as well. So yeah,
Okay, okay. So then you mentioned self-doubt.
yes.
Is that something that
Yes, I've always suffered myself from self-doubt. And I don't know where, it originally stemmed from. Maybe it's growing up in a big family where you doubt yourself because you're always looking at your older siblings. I'm not sure. But it's something like, whenever I started off working in the banking world, and I was moving from a salesperson into the training world, so they put us through 3 weeks of a training for it. But we were replacing professional trainers who had like full qualifications. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm actually going to flunk this. There's absolutely no way I'm going to be able to replace one of these professionals. And I think even though I had the self-doubt, I would give it a go. I'm a yes person. I'll always try my best. I'll give it a go. And I think it took me a long time. I would say maybe even 18 months in the role as a trainer to realise, yeah, I'm actually good at this and I'm enjoying it. And I remember getting feedback from another trainer to say, you actually suffer from imposter syndrome. And I was like, okay, so this is actually a thing. And, I wasn't even aware at that stage. But the fact that they were even picking it up and they were like, you need to believe in yourself because you are doing this and you're able to do it really well. So just start that self-belief. And I think that was a game changer for me. But even like I went self-employed in 2016. So I moved from an employed person within the learning development financial services world to somebody that was self-employed. And at the beginning I thought, oh wow, will anybody even give me a contract, And but yeah, once the contract started to come in, I realized, okay, yeah, actually I can do this. And then, it's moving into like I'm currently writing a book as we referred to. And that's a completely new world. So yes, you get the self-doubt of, will anybody even buy this book? Is it going to be good enough because I'm not an actual writer? So what will happen? But I think I've got enough sort of resilience to actually not let it take over, and I will give myself the opportunity to step out there and give it a go. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But I'll give it a try. So I don't let that voice in the head, the self doubt, take over. But yeah, I definitely have suffered from it for many years.
but I think that's normal, isn't it? I mean, I still self-doubt's always there. I don't think it goes away.
I don't think it goes away, but what I've realised is a lot of the people that I admire out there, that I've realised they're actually completely winging it underneath, but they make it look like, yeah, this is, I'm really good at this. And that's when I realised, you know what, everybody's suffering from self-doubt. Everybody's just, when we are winging it,
I think it comes down to the belief that you have in yourself.
It's the belief. And I think it's the courage to actually let yourself give it a go.
And sometimes people probably obviously they don't believe in them, but sometimes people need a little push,
Yes,
you know.
very much so,
Oh,
very much so, and it's instilling that in somebody and actually saying, do you know what, you can do this, and
mm.
that person who'd said to me about the imposter syndrome and actually you need to believe in yourself, that was that person for me. So now I try and replicate that with other people and actually let them know that they are very capable.
And with the people that you would have trained, was there any like patterns in terms of ones who were willing to progress or wouldn't or didn't want to progress, or like in terms of maybe their background? Sometimes I feel like maybe the people that were around, their environment that we're in, maybe the friends that we hung out with can have an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much so. We used to do a lot of work as well with school leavers. So there's a lot of graduate programs for people who've been through college and university, but we had a program for people coming straight out of school who didn't even want to go down that route. So they were very much, you could really see, they were coming in raw. They had no agendas whatsoever, and they were very easy to help shape and mold and to sort of bring them on that journey and give them the belief that they could absolutely do anything that they wanted. I think when people then go through the university and they come in with their graduate degrees, it's a completely different person that you're dealing with. So they've come with a preconceived idea of what they're capable of doing. And sometimes you have to unpick that and actually let them know that there's a lot more to it than maybe they've come in with their idea of. And they might have a lot more skills that they can bring to the table rather than one that they've been really good at in college. So it's that sort of mindset. And then you get a lot of people who've come from backgrounds where they've never had self-belief and they've never had opportunities. And I think that's a big one. You can really recognize that. And sometimes it's just giving people the opportunity to say, have a go with this, have a try. And you can see the little spark in the eye that actually starts to realize, yeah, I can do this.
Yeah, and I think that's important to know that there's opportunities. Sometimes then people may think, oh, sure, I am trying, or I have tried,
Yes.
or like maybe a fixed mindset. How
Yes.
do you come across,
Oh,
or how do
absolutely.
you help them?
And we used to do a lot of, like, especially in the management development. So we would run workshops for managers to progress into senior roles or for advisors to move into manager roles. And you would have people come in who would be like, I'm going to absolutely ace this, who would completely flunk it. And they had no self awareness. So it was actually sitting down and giving feedback to say, okay, these are the areas where you were really strong in, but these are the areas that you need to develop. And a lot of time they couldn't see that. But what really stood out is the people who are actually willing to work on themselves. And not everybody is. There's certain people who'd be like, no, I actually think this is, my ability and I don't believe the feedback that you're giving me, and that's okay. You have to let them work through it themselves. But there's a lot of people who actually want the support and want the coaching, and it's helping them sort of find their feet and find their ways of actually doing something, because it's not necessarily copying the way that I'm doing it,
Mm.
because my way works for me, but actually it's letting them find a way that works for them.
Mm. You seem quite confident in the work that you do.
Yeah, and
That's
I
good.
I think so. I think over the years, like I've a 20+ year career now, within that financial services, insurance industry, motor finance, and I've worked with a lot of huge companies over the years. So that kind of builds your confidence, and especially when you get repeat work, when
Mm.
people come back to you and say, "Okay, Marie, we worked with you on this project. Can you come back in and do this?" And I think it is just believing in yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Then so that with that kind of work, then you've kind of reinvented yourself a few
Yes, a
times.
few times.
Yes.
Yes, yeah, I would say.
Identity.
Yeah,
Can we talk
complete.
about identity?
Yeah,
Sometimes we get caught up, or at least we think we have to be the same person.
yeah, very much so. And I think, for me, I went from the student originally. I was studying my business degree, and I went from being that student into working in finance and with all that self-doubt in the back of your head. And that's a complete change, and it's even down to things like, the way you're dressing and how you're turning up, how you're presenting yourself every day. And then I moved from being that advisor role then into the trainer role. And that involved a lot of traveling. So you're meeting a lot of people. So you're starting to build your confidence by actually talking to people, by finding out what's going on in other people's world, and it opened a huge amount of horizons for me. But it was building that belief in myself, and then going self-employed was a huge shift for me. It's the moving into the unknown. Now I'm always somebody who will give it a go. I'll always try. But yeah, that was a huge shift, and that was in 2016. And then probably the biggest shift then for me was, I became a mother, and so you're trying to juggle life with kids and family life, and then we moved into a phase in our life when my husband became ill. So then I became that carer person, and so yeah, so it was another shift again, and it's a different skill set. You have to change how you're actually presenting yourself, how you're dealing with things. And then, sort of, the final shift for me now has been, I've moved into becoming an author. And this, again, is completely unknown and a brand new world for me that I didn't really know a lot about. But yeah, so it's changing your identity, but it's not losing your roots. You can bring them through every element, and it goes back to that resilience that I grew up on the farm, that I learned. That has sort of shaped me through every sort of different role that I've been in.
Mm. The book then, that's inspired by your own experience, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The going through the perimenopause.
Going through perimenopause. So yes, that was a huge shift for me. And it coincided with a time in life when, we had a lot going on in our family life. So I didn't recognise the symptoms when they started to sort of show in my body. So I started to get lack of sleep. I was like,
Do you mind me asking before you? I want to ask a question. Like initially, whenever I spoke to you, I was like, "Oh, that's not really relevant to me,"
yes.
But can you break down why it is relevant to me and men in general?
Yes, absolutely. So perimenopause is a phase that every woman's going to transition into.
And what ages?
So there's a myth that it happens around 51, 52. It happened for me at 46. I now know a lot of other people who it happened in their late 30s, early 40s. So pretty much you can talk any age from about maybe 37, 38, right up to about 55. So for men out there, this is happening to the women in your lives. So for younger men, it's going to be their mothers. It might be older sisters, their aunts. It could be somebody that they're working with. So yeah, there's a lot going on for women in this phase of their lives, and it's very much not talked about. It's starting to come out a little bit more now, but there's still a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of women going through this and navigating it and don't actually know what's happening to their bodies. So yeah, it's a crazy time, but I think it's creating that awareness. So for men, it's understanding that actually if something changes in the woman in your lives, sort of their daily routines, how they're talking to you, are they stressing, are they snapping more, are they not sleeping, are they struggling more, and you will see it, then actually a lot of times this could be hormonal, and this is perimenopause. So perimenopause is when the hormones deplete in your body. So there's a couple of main ones, estrogen and progesterone, and they drop at a rapid pace when women sort of transition into perimenopause. So for me, I thought it was stress at the time. Because I was juggling a lot at the time, so I didn't actually really recognise the symptoms. And then you go online and you Google stuff, and you start to think, oh my goodness, there's a whole array of things could actually be wrong with me. But when I went to my GP, I actually had said to her, I think I'm actually turning into a psychopath. That was the words I used. And she gave me that look to say, okay, here we go again, because this was not uncommon. So she talked through some of the symptoms with me. So there's things like I was suffering from night sweats. I was also really struggling to sleep. There was at least a 2-hour window every night where I was awake looking at the ceiling. I was struggling. I was starting to put on weight. I was getting really irritable, really snappy. And
It didn't cross your mind that it.
no, it really hadn't.
Why was that?
And I think it's because I thought it was stress. I thought
Yeah.
it was just the lot. We had a lot going on in our family life at the time, and I think that's what I chalked it up to.
And were you aware of what the perimenopause might be like at that time?
No, because I think in my head, I thought it was going to happen later in my life. And there's also like women have a full cycle, so it's every month, and that never changed. So one of the things that can happen is there can be rapid changes. So it can happen more frequently, less frequently, heavier, lighter. And I thought that's what it was going to be down to. But for me, that completely changed. I was still regular, but all these other things were happening. So whenever I spoke to my GP, she was like, "Yeah, that actually is the case, and that's a misconception." So yeah, there's a lot happening. And every second person is going to have completely different experiences. So for somebody, they might be experiencing hot flashes. Somebody else can feel really cold. And it's not just like cold in your body. It's life can feel cold. And there's almost like a sadness there with it. So yeah, there's a lot of different symptoms. And everybody could have about 40 different varieties of those symptoms. So yeah, it's a lot to sort of work through and figure out what's actually happening.
So then your body's going through a transition. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, but that transition can take a long time.
How long?
So perimenopause can last for up to 10 years.
Okay.
So yeah. So menopause is classed as when you haven't had a period for 12 months. That's you're officially in menopause. But actually the lead up to that can last for 10 years before that actually happens.
So could you be having maybe 6 months, 7 months kind of in between each period?
That can happen. Yeah, absolutely.
And then once you go over 12 months, then
that's you're officially in menopause. Yeah.
So does that mean you'll still have a period after every 12 months potentially, or it's just
no, it usually disappears,
okay,
and then that's it. Now there are occasions, and even things like COVID, whenever people had their COVID injections, they suddenly had periods reappeared, but then they disappeared again. So yeah, they usually once they're gone, they usually don't come back. There can be sort of circumstances at times where it may appear, but yeah, it doesn't usually last long.
So a lot of women wouldn't really know this then?
They don't know a lot about the perimenopause section, and that's the struggle. That's the hard times where women don't know what's going on, and they've got brain fog. Like brain fog, you're trying to speak and the words are just not coming out. You forget what you walked into a room to get, and it's really difficult because it's actually debilitating at times. And some women will actually breeze through it. They won't have a huge amount of symptoms, but for about 80% of women, that they will have symptoms that's going to impact them on a daily basis.
Yeah, and I suppose then men, is for them to understand that, for their partners or their mothers or their sisters, they probably don't know.
They don't know.
It's not talked about.
It's not talked about. It's not talked about enough. It's starting to appear more now on social media, and even like you'll hear interviews now on TV. Tommy Tiernan had an interview recently.
Very good.
He had Laura Dowling on, and she talked very much about it. And it's great to hear that now coming out on TV and social media. But yeah, there's still a huge amount of work to be done. There's a lot of unknowns, and like for my husband, he came on the journey with me, and it's not, the nicest journey at times, and a lot of times we're not speaking or expressing, what's happening in our bodies in the right way. But for us, it was about communication. It was actually figuring out together what was happening. And like even things like I was on a HRT patch that there was a shortage of. So you used to have to go around all the chemists and try and find. So Niall would actually go and do that journey for me from 1 month to the next. So he understood how frustrating it actually was as well, even to get the right treatment, that what you needed to regulate you.
And how did you, I suppose, regulate yourself as well?
Yeah, so for me, the HRT was a game changer for me. That really, really helped me. I started sleeping again. And
is that like a tablet?
Yeah, so I had two. So there's estrogen and progesterone. So for the estrogen, I took a patch. So it's a patch that you wear on your body. And then the progesterone, that was a tablet form. So you would take that for 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. So yeah, and it was immediate, like literally as soon as I started. They tell you it can take up to 3 months for your body to react to it, but literally straight away I was like, oh my goodness, I am not irritable, I'm sleeping better. And even now my husband noticed it, so it was visible, the change that was happening in me. So what I found is actually it's not just about the HRT treatment, it's actually getting out there yourself. I still needed to have out in nature and having walks to even clear my head. I took up a sea dipping along with my friend Tracy. We go once a week, maybe twice a week during the summer, and we get in the water. And honestly, the feeling, it just changes you. It's great for clearing your mind, but you actually feel energized afterwards. For me, it's getting into the breath work. It's helping myself regulate alongside the HRT. That's been a really sort of big journey for the last 2 years for me.
Yeah, and it's back to that nature being a regulator.
Yes.
Like if you look at it as a medicine,
Yes.
getting out there, even just breathing, conscious breathing, and the water too.
Yeah.
Like
Absolutely.
I think with the water too comes resilience.
Completely.
It's like, fuck's sake, I have to get into the water and it's going to be cold,
I
but
know.
it's like I know I'm going to feel a lot better too.
Yeah, absolutely.
know?
Especially at the minute, like February is one of the toughest months
it's
to get
cold.
into the water. So yeah, it's very cold. But even we just give ourselves, even if we only stay in for 2 or 3 minutes, they reckon if you're in for 2 minutes, that's the main benefit your body's going to get. So anything longer, yeah, it's going to help. But as long as you can do those 2 minutes, so yeah, we try at the minute. It's probably about 3 minutes at the most. But yeah, but it's good. We enjoy it. You feel the benefit for it.
And what about your husband? How's he been an aid for you?
Oh, he's been an
Like how
amazing
can men
support.
support? Like
Well, honestly, I think it's just listening because we don't know what's happening. So we're trying to talk through what's happening, and it might not come out eloquent and it might not come out in the best way, but it's actually just having somebody to listen to you and go, do you know what? You're not going mad. This isn't you. This is not what you're normally like. So yes, there's something there. There's something that's changed in you, and it's sort of helping you understand, yeah, actually I might need to go and talk to somebody about this. And it's noticing the small things. But like Niall's a huge support. There's days where, I found it really stressful and he would just step in. We've 2 young kids. He would, make some of the household stuff disappear so that actually I had time just to take a day to myself. And, it's that kind of support. It doesn't have to be big, loud, dramatic support. It's the small things, the little things really make a difference.
yes. You talked about it in a way that I found interesting too. It's like your it's like software.
Yes.
You mentioned that.
So it's the way I would describe it, it's like a dodgy software update. So the type of update that happens where you actually have no prior notice to it happening. So all of a sudden your body is like this computer software that's updating. You didn't know was
like
happening.
auto update.
Yeah, it's an auto update. And you're like, I don't recognize it. I don't even recognize the interface. I don't know what's happening. But yeah, it's quite crazy. So yeah, that's how I would liken it.
Would you call it a software upgrade or downgrade?
I think I would have to say it's an upgrade because do you know what? There's a fear of moving into this transition in life. But for me, it's actually once you understand it, it's going back to that wisdom. You realize actually your body is this amazing sort of thing. So you start off like in your teenage years and you're going into, all the hormonal changes. And then once you sort of like for women, you're going into childbearing, becoming a mother, and your body adapts to that every time. So I would see this as an upgrade. I think it's a natural transition, and I think we have to appreciate it, and we have to go, yeah, do you know what? This is sort of moving into that wiser stage of a woman's life.
So it's about having the conversations too around it, like honest conversations.
Honest conversations. And that's what I found is I'm a natural talker. I overshare. I tell people
Always
what's
been?
going on. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I've always been a natural talker. So once I realised I was going through perimenopause, I started talking to other women and other people about it. And I realised that actually there's a lot of people out there going through this. I have no idea what's actually happening and they're not getting the support that they need. So people started talking to me about their experience of going to GPs and their GP saying, oh, you're actually suffering from depression. And here is antidepressants. And it's like, okay, hang on. Did they even check what you were like before this? Did they look at root causes? And they weren't having those discussions. So I think for me, I realised in those conversations that people need actually to understand the symptoms, but they need the terminology to help them to actually describe it to a medical professional to say, this is what I'm experiencing in my body. So yeah, that was a big change.
Okay, so the ability to have a conversation helps, first of all.
Yes.
They always say a problem shared is a problem halved.
Yeah.
Then it brings back to like having open conversations, I suppose, as a culture. Obviously, it's not spoken about that much.
Yeah.
But why do you think that it's it's not spoken about. You know, that it's not a conversation.
Yeah, it's a real taboo subject, and it always has been. Like I can even remember my own mother would have said, "Yeah, I think I was over it before I even knew I was in it." And when I looked back then at our life, I could actually recognise the symptoms then that my own mother went through, and I was like, "Oh no, I actually do remember this," because you're looking back at it with a different lens because you now understand the symptoms. And I think it's just that was what women were like. They were very stoic. They got on with it.
Yeah.
And it's that, we don't talk about these
But I
things.
don't think that's changed.
I think it's starting to
Okay.
change, though. I think
Because there's an element of like, woman needs to be strong.
yes,
You know?
very much so. We're carrying the whole household
Yeah.
through on a daily basis. So if I have anything wrong with me, it's seen like a failure. There's a lot of that happening out there. But once I started to talk to people, even men opened up to me and said, I was struggling, or their wives were struggling, and what was happening, and they weren't sure what was actually going on. And a lot of times it was concerned, is there something wrong with her mental health? And then once I started to ask questions about, okay, what's happening, and, would share information, it's amazing how quickly people will actually open up and people start to share because you instigate that conversation. And that's what I realized this was happening on a regular basis. And sometimes I would have, maybe a couple with, who would chat about, what do you do? And once I mentioned I was writing a book about perimenopause, I even had men who opened up in front of their wives to say, she's struggling. She's actually struggling with this. What would you recommend for her at this minute in time? And I have to keep going back to say, look, I'm not a GP. I'm not a wellness guru. I'm just a person who's gone through this and wants to share that. But it's actually given them really good websites that they can look at, people that they can speak to and share what's actually happening in their lives and finding the right words, to talk about it to somebody else. I think that's a big, big thing. But yeah, so I do talk a lot, and people do talk once I start,
Good.
mention it.
Is it to do with an element of, perfection? Where we have to be perfect and nothing is out of line,
Well, society's very much like that. I feel at this minute, everything is about being perfect, and you have to dress a certain way. You have to, you're not even supposed to have wrinkles anymore, and it's like we're hiding that imperfection. So that's coming through, I think, a lot in society at the minute. That's the way we're almost being brainwashed into it, I think. So for me, it's actually about scratching that surface and getting underneath it to say it's actually okay that you're not imperfect. Embrace it, talk about it, share it. It's totally fine. We're not perfect beings. We have to have flaws. That's part of being human. But until you actually can embrace that and share it, then you're never going to actually heal from it.
Yeah, definitely true. Like getting older,
Yes.
we want to stay looking
Yes.
younger, I suppose. I feel like life gets better the older you get.
I do too.
No, not like I still have tough challenges now, but I still feel like with age, you become wiser. I like to
Yep.
think that anyway.
Yep.
And I suppose it gets easier to deal with things. You might have tougher situations, but easier to deal with things. And the reason I'm saying that is people maybe are afraid of getting older,
Yes.
or clinging on to youth, or
There's a lot of fear around it, and it's that I don't want to be judged as somebody who is getting older, I think, as well. We're very aware of how other people perceive us. I think there's a huge amount of that in the current culture. But yeah, I think we have to look at our differences, though. We're not all the same. Everybody is different. And all of a sudden, when you start to see, young girls and they're all looking the same, they're dressing the same, it's actually, where's your individuality with it, And I think as I get older, I really appreciate that as well. I actually see the differences in people, and we're not the same. We have to embrace those sort of differences and share them and, be proud of them,
Yeah, no, it's definitely true. The culture of imperfection or
Yeah.
perfection, and everyone trying to be, I suppose, portray themselves in a way that fits in and
Yes.
is well accepted.
Yeah,
Do you know?
it's that to be accepted, isn't it? You think you have to portray yourself in a certain way, but you don't. You just have to be yourself. You have to be authentic,
Yeah.
and I think it's not losing that.
The two things that you also mentioned, I was curious about, is you talked about the distortion of intimacy through
Yes.
online porn with younger men.
Yes.
How have you come across this?
Well, I think this is a big thing in current society. And I think it's misleading. And I think I'm very much at the minute of looking at how we can support people and remove all of the things that are misleading. So there's this whole culture now of pornography, but it's when you what they're looking at, it's not real. It's very much everything's curated. So for younger men viewing this, it's very much all about performance. It's seeing, these girls on pornography who are very much behaving in certain ways, looking in certain ways, but actually that's not the reality. So for me, it's actually trying to share that it's about intimacy, it's about communication, and yes, it's messy. It's not the stage look that you see. So yeah, I think there's a lot of education that needs to happen around it, and I think it's trying to create an impression of what is real and what's not. And there's a lot of misleading pornography out there that's not real.
Yeah, I think what comes with that then is disconnection,
Completely.
the losing the ability to maybe connect with someone on a
Yes,
deep level
very much
because
so.
they're very distorted.
It,
I do agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's completely distorted. And I think it's all coming back. Like, intimacy is about communication. It's having the conversations. What are you enjoying? And having that discussion with somebody, and you're going on a journey together. And it's about the connection. It's that togetherness. Whereas this is very misleading, and it's all sort of focused on performance.
I agree. And then the other one then is the normalization of burnout.
Yes, and I see this all the time, and especially like I've worked in financial services for over 20 years. This has now become the reality, is that people are wearing their burnout. It's like, it's like a badge of honor. So people are constantly talking about how busy they are, how many projects they're juggling. But actually they're never off. So they're sending emails in the middle of the night. There's managers doing it within their teams, and it's become the norm that you have to perform at this level. But actually, we don't. If we can't do our day jobs, within that sort of 9 to 5 or whatever hours you're working, you shouldn't need to be constantly working in the evenings, working at the weekends, sending emails, making yourself look like you're really, really busy. But businesses at the minute are sort of pushing that agenda. You can look at performance, absolutely, and see, are the jobs sized right? If somebody is actually having to do extra work just to do their job, but that's a sizing issue, that's a business issue. We're all about cost cutting, but it shouldn't be to the detriment like of our people. So it's actually looking at how many people we need to do a certain job. But I think it's become the norm very much so that people are burning themselves out completely. There's a lot more stress, a lot more people struggling in the workplace, and I don't know if it's seen enough in terms of the burnout that's actually happening.
So do you have a framework that you have? Applying yourself, work balance.
I think for me, if I'm working on like say a 9 to 5 contract, it's keeping it, and you have to keep it within that time frame. It's Yes, it might be tempting to log on in the night time and go, oh, did they respond to that email? Or you might have your work emails coming through on your mobile phone, and I think that's a really tough one. You nearly need to go and lock that work phone into a drawer and don't take it out until the following morning. So for me, it's staying away from it. Don't even think about it. So going for walks clears my head. So if I have a lot going on with whatever project I'm working on, I love going for a walk. Even at lunchtime, I find helps me perform better in the afternoon whenever I'm working and getting through a heavy workload. So it's trying to find a release. And then it's getting in and spending time with your family. You need to be present with your family. Whatever that family life looks like for you. For me, I've got young kids and I want to be there present for them. But there's a lot of people who don't have kids, so it's if they're spending time with their partner, with their parents, it's actually taking that time and sitting down and having conversations and forgetting about what's going on at work.
Can be hard. I suppose everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes if I'm working I could end up working all day.
Yes.
Start in the morning and finish late at night. But I work for myself, so I kind of work whatever way I feel, in the sense of if I have a lot to do. Like yesterday was a long day for me,
Yes.
and then when I got to the evening, I was like, oh, I still felt like I hadn't enough done.
Yeah.
Now I went for a bath, something I never do.
Yes.
But it was just nice to sit in warm water, chill out, not nothing, you know. But that's like another something I never do. But normally I go for walks too late at night. The walk's always good for me. You know, it does help, clears things, and I can come back refreshed and get stuck into things. But then also other days I might, very rarely, but I'll finish early.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? If I can.
Yes.
But there's always that urge to do a bit more. Because I'm never finished.
No.
There's always something, you know, always something. But I think over the years I've learned to balance it better. And I say balance it, manage myself better.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Because I know over time, the more you do, it catches up with you.
It catches up with you, and stress is one of the worst things for our bodies. Like, that will come out in your body. If you're not releasing your stress, it'll come out through something else in your body.
It's funny, sorry you say that, right? Because I have felt that. I've felt it a bit recently, not just like recent, but in last year, where I feel it in my hands.
Yes.
I feel my nerves, like it's like there's a tingle here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's not uncommon. That's not uncommon.
Yeah, I've never had that before.
Yeah. And that's when you're putting in too many hours. And it's really hard, because we're all programmed to say, oh, I need to do it. This has to be done. But actually, a lot of the times it doesn't have to be done immediately right there and then. And that's the thing. It's trying to get that balance for yourself. And the only person who can do it is you. You know, that's the thing. You're the person making the choices. And once I realised that, I thought, yeah, I have to actually make the time. I could have worked 24 hours a day and would have still had projects lined up if I had chosen to do that. And don't get me wrong, there was times where we had to do all-nighters, especially if you were working on a project that had a deadline and you had to achieve that deadline. So yes, there were times and there were exceptions, but it's not allowing that to creep in and become the norm. So yeah, it's choosing your routine, your week. What does that look like? And I think what you're eating during that as well is a huge factor as well. It's taking the time to actually nourish your body, because that's when your body needs it the most as well.
Yeah, and then you've just brought up, like, the morning routine for me is really important.
Yeah.
Do you know, sometimes I wake up and I look at my phone, you know, but sometimes I don't.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
It's hard not to,
No,
isn't
I
it?
know,
Yeah.
it's just like, oh, but anyways, I try to have a slow morning, because I think how I start my morning has an impact on my day. So I'll take it not easy, but without rushing through the morning, do you know? And when I find I do that, I have a better day. Whereas I'm rushing and eat breakfast, drive fast, blah, 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 blah. You know, that kind of, that's the way the day's going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're setting yourself up for success by taking it slow and actually being present with, you know, whoever you're with that in the morning time as well. And I think you need that, because that keeps you grounded as well, you know, rather than just rushing out, you know, straight out of bed, shoving some food in and you know, heading off. And you're not even giving your brain time to even properly wake up before you're back in the grind of it, you know. So yeah, for me, I always take time now in the morning. I've started getting into meditation. So I would find a meditation first thing in the morning really, really helps me. And it could only be 15, 20 minutes. If I've got a lot of time, then I'll do something like maybe a 45-minute one. But I find that sets me up for the day. And I don't do it religiously every day, but there's certain mornings of the week I will try my best to fit it in. And I feel the benefit of it throughout the whole day.
Yeah. Like, meditation too can be, like, for me, just going for a walk.
Yes,
do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
It doesn't. Sometimes I think people think they have to sit still.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
Like,
absolutely.
but it can be just being present in the
Being
moment.
present,
Isn't it?
yeah, very much so. Yeah, completely.
Like, going, if I'm out for a walk, sometimes I'll try and notice something that I haven't noticed before.
Yes,
Do you know?
I like that.
I remember
yeah.
seeing that from some monk. He says there was, I don't know if I heard it, but it kind of keeps you present at the moment. You know.
Yes.
Helps. But you've also done a lot with you've done charity work.
Yes.
You know, I would say you're adventurous.
Yeah, I'd say I am.
You have that spirit.
Yeah.
Yeah. When your brother passed away, you raised money.
Yes. So my brother was treated in Beaumont Hospital in Dublin. So I signed myself up to run the New York Marathon along with a friend of mine. And we raised money for Beaumont Hospital at the time. So we ran the New York Marathon. So I put together a 6 month training course. Now, I'm not naturally athletic in any way, shape, or form. So at school, sports for me was playing table tennis at lunchtime. So this was a huge personal challenge for me to actually get out there and start running. But I realised I loved it whenever I started to get out there. It's so good for clearing your head. And I need the goal. I needed something to work towards. So we ran the New York Marathon and we finished it. And honestly, it was fantastic. And I actually felt like my brother John was with me at the finish line. It was,
nice,
yeah, it was really good.
Very good, very good. That's just not doing a 5K or 10K though. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
Like, that's in the deep end. Like,
yeah, I like big challenges. I like to take on something that's really going to push me.
Yes.
So I've done quite a few over the years.
And what else?
So I did the trek to Machu Picchu. I did that one for NSPCC. Oh, sorry, no, I did that one for Click Sargent. So that was for the Children's Cancer Hospital in Belfast. We built 2 homes from home. There was 30 of us did it together, so it was like a collective effort, collective fundraising. As part of my fundraising for that, I shaved my hair, which was the easiest fundraiser I've ever done. Literally, people threw money at me. I used to have this huge head of big curly hair. I've never grown it out since. But yeah, so that was a really tough challenge. We flew over to Peru and we had a couple of days to acclimatise in Cusco and then trek through the Andes to make it to Machu Picchu. But it was amazing. Such a great experience.
Yeah, I'd love to do Machu Picchu. It looks class.
Yeah.
I did intend a few years ago, but it didn't work out that way. But no.
Yeah. It was really good.
That'd
The
be
high
enjoyable.
altitude's not for everybody. We
No.
had 30 in our group and 5 didn't make it past the first night
Right,
because of the
right.
altitude. They
How
got
many
really
nights?
sick. So we were 4 nights, 5 days. Yeah.
Class.
Yeah. It was, and you're sleeping out in the mountain.
And back down.
And back down, yeah.
Jesus.
But it's amazing how quick your body regulates. Like your natural clock kicks in. So I was awake at like 5:30 in the morning every morning because you were going to bed when it was dark.
Yeah.
So you were in bed probably by 9 at the latest. So yeah, it's and your whole body resets. It was really cool.
Class.
It was tough. Don't get me wrong. You know, there was a lot of struggle trying to trek through it, but yeah, it was good.
And then you done the Hell and High Water.
Yes, so the Hell and High Water was on the Zambezi River. So that's the one I did for the NSPCC. And it was one of those, I signed up for it, but I didn't really know what I was signing up for. So the year before, it was set up for comic relief in the UK. So they had 6 celebrities do this Hell and High Water challenge. So we did it the year afterwards. So yeah, we flew over and you had to raft on the upper part of the Zambezi River for the first 4 days. And that was camping out on the riverbanks at night. And then the final day was the Batoka Gorge. So it was white water rafting. So it's the part that's after the Victoria Waterfalls. I'd never done whitewater rafting, had no idea how dangerous it was. And honestly, it was, I would say, probably one of the toughest days of my life. I'd say I seen my life flash before me at least 3 times.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't change it. It was amazing. It was such a fantastic experience. Even like camping out at night.
Well, how many nights was the...
We were, again, that
the
was actually
river?
5 days on the river and 4 nights camping, yeah.
Jesus.
But it was really cool because at night time you would get to go into the local villages and like you were with people who had absolutely nothing material in life, but they were just the loveliest people and they were so generous with, you know, for the very little that they had. It was honestly one of the best experiences. And like I remember waking up one morning at like 5 o'clock and watching a parade of lions walk past about 500 yards from where we were. It was just
Jesus.
amazing. And you could be in the river. There was crocodiles, there was hippos. It was unbelievable. Now, we did have a park ranger with us at all times. So, yeah,
gonna say,
they were there.
geez.
We'd no incidents, thankfully. But, yeah, they're there to protect you if you do need. Yeah.
I feel like I skipped over Machu Picchu.
Yeah.
What was that like? You know the whole experience,
Oh,
camping out. What?
I loved it. I just found it like you were in the middle of the mountains. You're in the Andes, like one of the highest mountain ranges, and Yes, it's the air's different, your breathing's different.
Do you
But
find yourself slowing down? Harder
yes,
to catch your
yeah.
breath?
So it's deeper, slower breaths. But yeah, it's such a difference. And then you're watching all the Sherpas like run past, and they literally will run past you. Because they go and set up and have a meal ready for you when you get to the next stop for the night. But the final morning we woke up at 3 o'clock so that we were at they call it the Sun Gate for sunrise. So the Sun Gate is overlooking Machu Picchu. So you're standing there watching the sunrise over the mountains, and Machu Picchu's just in front of you. And honestly, you can't even describe how beautiful that actually is. Yeah.
So there is like when you're in them like that kind of space with nature, like oh Jesus.
It's phenomenal. It really, really is, and it just the energy in your body. Just even it's amazing how it resets everything, like your natural clock as well. It is. It's phenomenal.
Class. What was your favorite out of the two?
Oh, I would say for the craziest, maddest experience of my life, I would have to go with the Zambezi. Yeah.
When I read it, I was like, that sounds fun.
Aye, it
Jesus.
was crazy.
Yeah.
It really pushed me beyond my limit of, oh my goodness, what am I actually doing?
But I don't get the feeling that you would have been afraid.
I was, honestly,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Yeah.
There was times where I was, especially doing the whitewater rafting, yes, the fear was in me. So the whitewater rafting, so you've got a guide, and there was 8 of us in the raft, and you're paddling together. So every time you were coming up to one of the rapids, there's 25 rapids. So every time you're working together, you're bracing yourselves for what's about to hit. And if you work together, you won't tip. But yeah, there was occasions where we were all over the place, and yes, we were in the water. You felt like you were in a washing machine is the easiest way of describing it. But yeah, you would see your life flash in front of you at times. So yeah, there was fear.
And would you do that every day? Was there
No, so that was the last day. That was the final day.
And was it a hike or like a walk the other days?
No, so that was rafting on the actual Cam River.
Oh, so just going down.
So just going down
every
the
day
Cam River. So
for
yes,
how many hours?
So that literally from morning you would stop on the river somewhere and have your lunch, and then you would keep
that
going to the
sounds
evening.
class.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And what about the crocodiles?
You would see them. Yep, you would see them, and
So
you'd
you
be
wouldn't
like,
put your
yeah,
hand on or no?
yeah, no, definitely not, definitely not.
And the hippos?
The hippos, there was only one point where we got on the river where the park ranger said, right, guys, we have to be quiet, we have to slow down, and we have to get these rafts out of the water right now. And we were kind of looking at it going, okay. But what had happened, we were going to be rafting between a hippo and the baby hippo. And that's when hippos will charge, and that's when you will lose your life. So yeah, they were able to sense it, and we took our time. I think we spent 45 minutes waiting for the hippo and the baby to reconnect and move, and then we got back in and carried on. So yeah, it's the kind of thing, if you didn't have the right guides and the rangers with you, you could easily get yourself into danger. But yeah, we were well looked after.
And then the lions, which were only about 500 yards away, they must be used or kind of have an awareness.
I think so, because they didn't even look in our direction, but they weren't looking for us. That's the thing,
Yeah.
it was morning time. They were actually on the move. So there was about 30 of them in a row, and they were just walking in a big parade past. It was honestly one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen.
Yeah, because I have seen videos of lions in Africa with, tours and stuff, but the lions, they just walk by. I think they've just become used to the humans passing through, and they're not part of their diet, I suppose.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I mean, you don't know, one could be hungry.
And a lot of times when animals will attack, it's because they feel threatened by you. So, we were zero threat to them where we were, yeah.
Yeah. It definitely sounds like something I'd love to do.
Honestly, I'd recommend it.
I'm
I
here
would
like,
absolutely
Jesus,
recommend
I
it.
love a good challenge,
Yeah.
Yeah. Definitely.
And it was one of those challenges, we had people from all over on it. So there was two of us, myself and another girl that I work with. We were the only people from my company on it. There was quite a few others from different companies. It was all Ireland and UK that was on our group. But yeah, it was interesting even talking to the guys, because they had worked with the comic relief crew the previous year, and even the stories that they were telling. Dara O'Brien was one of the celebrities that had been on it, so he was giving me lots of jib about being Irish and Dara as well.
Yes,
It was quite funny.
Very good. You touched on your husband.
Yes.
He got ill.
Yes, so
That was
Niall got ill.
recent.
This was 2023 and it came out of the blue. So yeah, this was probably the biggest shock, I think, maybe since my brother passed away, that I've encountered. So Niall had gone for a routine blood test. It was a Friday. It was based on a hunch. He'd seen his doctor about 6 weeks previously and had said, oh, come back, I just want to check your bloods. And so Niall had gone 10 o'clock in the morning for a blood test. By 4 o'clock that afternoon, he had a call from the doctor to say the hematology unit in Letterkenny rang to say he needs to come straight in. So we were kind of like, oh my goodness, what's happening? And 7 days later, not even 7 days, the following Thursday, he was diagnosed with hairy cell leukemia. He was in hospital the whole time. They treated him in Letterkenny. The oncology unit could not have been better. Like, honestly, we were just blown away by how supportive they were. So we stayed in hospital, had his treatment, and he had to have chemo on a daily basis. Now, it was a short-term chemo, so his was only over 7 days. So, he was quite fortunate, but he had to have it every day. And then he had to stay in hospital till his immune system was built back up until he could come out. So yeah, it was honestly the craziest time. We had a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old in the house, and I was working on a contract at the time for it was a car finance company. So I was contracted Monday to Friday for 9 to 5, and yes, so basically our whole world was turned upside down. We had no idea what was going on. It was crazy. Thankfully, he came through. Probably about 6 months, he was out the other side of it, and we were able to function normal life again. But
that's good. That's good. I'm sure it was a rock on the road, but
completely. And it was one of those, at the time, we didn't even tell people. Like, we told our close family and friends, but we didn't want to have lots of people coming to the house because Niall's immune system was compromised. So, you weren't out shouting from the rooftops about what you were going through. So people seeing you, out and about. I was still doing kids drop-offs to play school and, out trying to do the shopping, all of the normal things that you do. And you've all of this stuff going on. So, yeah, it's a very strange experience to go through. But challenges you in a lot of different ways. I had great support with my family around me. Like, they were just amazing, I have to say. They just stepped in and helped when you needed it. Yeah,
that's good. It's good to have people around you.
Good to have people around you. Absolutely.
That's where gratitude comes in for me. It's just like, oh, I definitely have good people around me.
Yeah, and it makes such a difference. Yeah,
when you can talk about things
completely. And it's strange because I had people around me, who I had been close to, who I didn't pick up the phone to say, this is what's actually going on in our lives. And then afterwards, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe you went through this and didn't tell me. And I was like, yeah, but it was a very difficult time. I didn't even have the capacity to be on calls with people because we had so much that I was juggling. Like, the company I was contracted with at the time, they were amazing. They were so supportive. We're just like, look, Marie, you're down as 9 to 5. Do whatever hours work for you. Like, they let me start at 6 o'clock in the morning. I could do 3 hours before 9 o'clock and then juggle my day as and when I needed to. They didn't mind. As long as I was producing the work, they were happy for me to do whatever was needed at the time. So I just created a schedule that worked for me. So other people then didn't actually see that side of how much you were trying to do. And yeah, there was people that I felt like kind of felt let down that I hadn't rang them or hadn't said. But I think when you're going through it yourself, you just have to do what's right for you at that time, And for me, that was keeping going, keeping busy, not talking about it. I found the emotion would rise in me the more I talked about it. So for me, it was actually keeping that still at the time because I needed to just get through each day. And it was really one day at a time. But yeah. We got there.
Good. I think it comes down to, you have to choose your people whenever you're open up. Definitely talk about it, but who you talk to about it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did all my talking then afterwards. Once we were out the other side, like, I absolutely reconnected with a lot of people then at that stage. And, once I explained what had happened, then the people were a lot more understanding, I think, then with it too.
Good, good. And your book, when did you start writing that?
So I started writing the book last year,
Okay.
and yeah, that sort of was born out of, I suppose, a lot of everything over my life. I never intentionally thought I was going to sit down and write a book, but I just thought people needed to understand what's going on. They needed to hear the right terminology, the words and explanations, but in a way that's relatable. So for me, the book is called The Rage, the Sweat and the Patches, and I think that sums it up. It's like a no-hold-barred version of what's happening for women, and it's unapologetic, it's open, it's the hard stories that people have gone through. I've had a number of people that I reached out to say, would you share your story in my book? And they were all coming back and saying yes, we would. So it was quite humbling that people were allowing me to actually take that story and shape it in the book. But yeah, so it's been a bit of a labour of love. I thought the hard bit would be writing the book, but actually the hard bit is everything else that happens after you've written it to actually get it to published. So I'm navigating a whole new world, but I've really, really enjoyed it. So there's a lot of things that you have to consider, even like from a legal aspect of the words that you're writing. Can they be misinterpreted? The whole medical side of it. I reached out to my GP, who also put me in touch with Dr. Kiva Hartley. So they've reviewed from a medical point of view, because you don't want anything to be misleading. So that was kind of reassuring when they came back to say, yeah, no, actually everything here's fine. Might make one small tweak here. So at the minute, I've got the first stage of editing done. I'm getting my book cover completed. A friend of mine's doing that for me. So yeah, it's getting very real. It's exciting. Yeah, very much so.
When are you intending to release?
I'm hoping now within the next 2 months. I originally had a deadline in my head and then realised there's absolutely no chance of hitting that one. So I haven't put another deadline yet until I have the physical book in my hand and go, right, I have it here now. Okay, I can plan around it. But yeah, I would say it's going to be within the next 2 months.
And if you were to summarise, what would you say that the book will help with?
I think that the book will really help women understand what perimenopause is, relate to it, so understand the stories around what's actually happening to you, and I think it will help open up that conversation. And I think it's not just for women, it's for men as well, to actually understand what's happening in the women in their lives.
So, well, look, writing a book,
Yeah.
and that's a big task, so congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Have you had any inspirations along the way?
Yes, I have, and I've been very fortunate. One of the big inspirations for me is Eckhart Tolle. And I was very fortunate to actually go on one of his courses, which involved a face-to-face workshop in Canada. And bizarrely, it actually happened at the same time, just after Niall had come out of hospital. So he was home from hospital 8 weeks. And I just originally thought, there's absolutely no way I'm going to do this. And his sister stepped in and said, look, I'll move into your house for the 8 days. Niall was very much, I think you need to go on this course. So I was very fortunate to go there. He's been a huge inspiration for me. I read his book, The Power of Now, and it's not one of those books I would have naturally picked up. And somebody had recommended it to me, and it's very much about you're not the thoughts in your head. And when you can separate yourself from those thoughts, it can be life-changing. So for me, that was a huge moment in my life. So I was going through such a tough time, in my personal life.
How do you separate your thoughts from like who you are? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's really deep. So you have to really think about, okay, all the thoughts that are going on in my mind, and I'm attaching myself to those constantly, and it can actually be exhausting. So once you realise that you're not your thoughts, that you have the ability in your head to actually stop those thoughts completely. And I started building this into my daily life, and it might only be for 30 seconds, for a minute, but actually it profoundly changes your daily habits as well that you have going on, and it breaks the thought process. So we can go into complete doom spirals in our own heads, We can talk ourselves into absolutely anything. So this is doing that opposite to that. It's actually stopping it. It's actually saying, right, I'm not those thoughts. I need to actually step away from them. And it's really grounding. It really brings that stillness back into your life. So Eckhart Tolle is very much about finding the stillness, and he's very linked into nature. It's about finding the stillness in nature. He could spend a whole afternoon practicing stillness, just watching one bird or a cloud in the sky. And it was really inspirational. And for me, that was a huge, huge time in my life and a huge change. And like, I still go back to reading his books. I'll pick them up on a regular basis. Yeah.
He's good. I that's something I learned that off a different guy. Do you know Anthony DeMello?
Yes.
He has
Yes.
a book called Awareness, where you
Yes.
become the awareness behind the thoughts.
Behind the thoughts.
So like, yeah, you get the thought and think you become emotionally attached. Just as like
Yeah.
your emotions start to feel a certain way with
Yes.
this thought, and then it's like the practice of, well, hold on, Ryan, you're just getting caught to that thought. The
Yes.
thought's there, but that's not me.
That's not you. You can
Yeah, I'm
acknowledge it.
It's passing through me.
Yes.
And
You
then
acknowledge it,
letting
let
go
go.
of the emotion.
Yeah.
Because like you can get caught in the emotions and it can be fucking hard.
It can
Do you
be
know what I
hard.
mean?
Yes.
And then you have to practice to let go.
Yes,
you
very
know?
much so, isn't it? You know, and it's taking the time, and
Yeah.
it's once you start to think I'm not my thoughts, then you've already broken that. You know.
Yeah. And then you're very resilient.
Yes.
I just it's just something I feel from you.
Yes.
You know, from
Yes.
the moment I met you.
Yes.
You know, I feel like you're a very strong woman.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
Would you say like how would you say? I know you talked about the farm. Do you think that was?
Yeah, I think it was my upbringing, absolutely. In terms of resilience, you know, I think you have to be growing up on a farm because everything changes so suddenly, and you know you're working on one thing, and then you know the weather can change, and so you have to adapt. So yeah, I think for me it was growing up. The people that surrounded me, my dad was a very resilient person as well, and my mum, you know, they raised 6 kids on a farm, so I think we learned that as quite young in life growing up, and you know even dealing then with like the loss of my brother, you have to be resilient because you could let things like that swallow you up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had a lot to go through as well, and yeah, it's always been a big thing for me. Yeah, I try and lean into it and try and just get on with it and you know go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel that people can learn just to become resilient straight away? Is this something they can switch?
I think there's people who are born with resilience as well, you know, but I think you can definitely adapt it. I think you can completely, you know, start to look at yourself, how you're reacting to things.
Yeah.
Yeah, very much so.
It's like catching your reaction.
Catching your reaction.
Catching that thought.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, and that builds your resilience, you know.
And then the words that we say.
Oh, it's the self-talk
Yeah.
completely. Yeah, very much so. Like I read a book years ago, it was called Well Done, and it's a very simple concept of catching yourself, catching other people when they're doing things right rather than when they're doing things wrong. But you can adapt that to yourself. It's how you talk to you in your own head and actually say, Marie, you did a great job there, rather than saying, oh my God, Marie, you completely flunked it. You know, because it's our natural
So true,
thing
isn't it?
is to actually say, oh, I could have done that better. Where actually it's saying, you've done a great job there. And I brought that into like everything in life, you know, even like in work and management. And yeah, it's, that was quite a good one to read early on in life.
Then it's the self-praise is no praise. That's what we've been taught.
That's what we've been taught, and you don't want to get a big head. And yes, there's very much that as well. I think it's a very Irish thing as well. You know, you grow up in rural Ireland, and there's a lot of that as you go through life, and you know, you don't want to lose the run of yourself. And yes, there's elements to all of those, but actually, I think we need to shout more about what we are good at and what we do, and to actually build our own confidence. You know, I think we can encourage people a lot better than we do.
And then that goes back to the words that we choose to describe situations, describe moments, maybe describe ourselves.
Yes,
you know,
very much so.
Choice of words.
Choice of words.
Because there's power in language, isn't
There's
there?
very much power in language, and I learned a lot from a book as well by an author called Brené Brown. She wrote a book about the gift of imperfect parenting, and it was very much the words that you use with your kids. And she does this whole piece around shame and guilt, and it's how you can actually shame a child or you can guilt a child. So shaming is using language like you're bad. Whereas guilting is actually saying, I know you're good, but that was a bad thing to do. And your behavior wasn't great, but we can change that behavior by doing ABC. And it was very much a profound thing where I went, oh, wow, I can actually see that difference. And it's how I talk to myself and it's how I talk to the kids. It changed a lot of things in my life and just how I actually parent. So yeah, there's little small things can make such a difference. Nelson Mandela was somebody that I admired all my life. I just thought the resilience that he shows in his life, like 27 years in prison, and he was able to walk out of that a free man. He had no bitterness. He had no resentment. He had managed to actually keep space in his own head to say, this is not who I actually am. And he lived and breathed that. And I think it's profound. And he says one of my favourite quotes, which is, resentment is like drinking poison and expecting it to kill your enemy. And I think that's very profound when you look at actually what we're keeping, what we're holding on to inside, and how that's actually not benefiting us at all. So it's choosing to actually forgive, even when it seems impossible that you can forgive people. It's choosing that freedom, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very true, very true. Because a lot of people hang on to anger.
Yes.
You know, and they don't have to be friends, but I suppose it's just forgiving them and letting go, isn't it?
But it's forgiving them for you. It's
exactly,
letting yourself release it. It's actually taking that away. You're not carrying it. Because again, that goes back to the stress in our bodies. And if you're carrying a lot of resentment and things like bitterness around with you, it comes out in your body.
You're the one that's feeling it.
You're the one that's feeling it.
Impacting you.
Yeah. So that's why it's like drinking the poison.
Like at an atomic level. Like,
yeah,
you know.
Very much so. Yeah.
Marie, thank you very much.
You're very welcome, Ryan.
It's been a pleasure having you on today.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank
you.
you.
Me too. If people want to reach out to you, where can they connect with you?
So they can connect with me online. So I'm on Facebook, Instagram. I'm even setting up a TikTok account.
Good stuff.
So I've got both my personal ones, Marie McLaughlin, but I've also got Peri Mayhem, and I've set up a website as well, perimayhem.com.
Cool. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you,
I wish you all the best.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.